get around, I get around, yeah, get around, round, round, I get around, I get around.
Jason Russell certainly got around yesterday. He's a commentary writer for the Washington Examiner, and no, he didn't load up his Woody full of surfboards and chicks and drive around town to catch some waves. No.
But he gets around.
He got around on the Metro. He started at 7 a.m. yesterday, and he visited every single Metro stop on every single line, and he ended up at a WMATA...
What? Does he have
WMATA Riders Union meeting.
Does he have some kind of, personality defect
Well,
that he felt like he needed to go through that kind of punishment?
Let's find out. What got into you, Jason Russell, and tell us about your experience yesterday. Who inspired this?
So actually, there was a guy up in New York City that I saw took the longest possible route up there without overlapping any of the stations, and I thought, why don't I do something like that, but with WMATA, and along the way point out, all the issues I have, every time the train stops between the stations, every broken escalator I see, every time the train annoyingly stops halfway down the platform and has to pull up and all that stuff. So I thought it was worth it to take 12 hours to do it.
This is a random sample yesterday. And by the way, so I rode Metro yesterday, and I don't know if you were on the red line when I was around midday, but it was single tracking. It was delayed by double the time that it usually should be. I ended up getting out and taking a cab instead. What was more amazing to you, Jason Russell? The conditions you saw with the trains not doing what they're supposed to do and the stops, or the reactions of the riders?
I would say, actually, once I got past morning rush hour, it was actually pretty semi-smooth sailing most of the time, so that was the most shocking thing. Although I was following along most of the day on Twitter, and I would see, this train on the red line is broken down, like you mentioned, or whatever, so that's going to cause delays. But then, I wasn't on the red line at that time, so it wouldn't affect me. So all day, even though I was seeing all these things, I managed to avoid them.
Ah, you dodged the bullets. All right.
All right,
yeah.
so I got a couple of questions for you. How much did it cost?
So that's the thing, is that this only cost me $10 overall. But people know that Metro charges based on how far you go. But, you need to realize they only know when you enter the system and when you exit the system.
Ah.
So, for example, I took a break at Union Station, and eventually I got off at McPherson Square. But in between, I went all the way out to Branch Ave. I went all the way out to New Carrollton, all the way out to Largo. But still, it assumed that I took the shortest path from Union Station to McPherson Square.
Oh, I see.
It only cost me a couple dollars for that part.
That's amazing. Well, I mean, and so you ran into, did you tell people what you were doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I tried to interview a few people during the morning commute. Surprisingly, they were really not into it. Even if it was an opportunity to complain about Metro for a couple of minutes, lots of people were reluctant to give their name and speak to me. I only got a few people to do that. But that'll be an article that I write up in a couple of days anyway.
You live tweeted this, though, and what did you get response from other writers as you were doing this and following you along, or was it mostly just the rest of us who enjoyed watching you do this? The Schadenfreude and all these journalists around town.
Yeah, no, there's certainly a lot of people who said, what are you thinking? Why are you doing this to yourself? Even people at the Examiner were also telling me, like, what is the point of all this? But I think it was worth it in the end. Now that it's over, for sure, I'm glad I did it. But definitely yesterday I was having some second thoughts, being like, is this really how I want to spend all day? So glad I did it.
What's your biggest takeaway from as the writer's experience? What is the biggest problem that WMATA needs to address from a writer's standpoint? Since you spent 12 hours total?
Yeah, 12 hours total. It's definitely the inconsistency. That's the thing that writers kept on mentioning. It's that they don't know if their commute, for instance, is going to take an hour or 2 hours, depending on where they're coming from. And one of the big delays I had, was only 10 minutes long, but what if your commute is usually 20 minutes? Adding that 10 minutes on is a big deal. It really sucks. So it's the inconsistency, it's the delays, it's not knowing how long it's going to take to get there. And we see all this track work happening on the weekends, and we understand that that's better to have that on the weekends than during the weekdays, but at the same time, we're still not getting any better service at all during the weekdays.
All right. At any point along your trip, did you actually understand what the engineer was saying over the public address system?
I was keeping track. There was 3 times on the various trains I was taking that the PAs were broken. So certainly there could have been more errors than that, but that was one of the big things. Another time there was a door that only half the door opened at the station, the other half stayed closed. Definitely all kinds of things. Only once was there someone who came along the train asking for money. One time somebody was selling something that was strange too. It was, saw some weird things.
And the quality of the cars, you found them to be, well maintained consistently?
They were fine. I mean, some of them you would see like a big stain in the carpet. I didn't see any chairs falling off. I mean, I have seen that in the past, but I didn't see that yesterday. I didn't see any big errors. But at the same time, there was, still plenty of, gross litter lying around but I just blame that on riders, not necessarily Metro.
Well, and that brings me to my next question. I mean, listen, obviously a big thrust of what you were doing here is to evaluate the performance of WMATA, the equipment, the facilities, the staff. But I've got to think, 12 hours, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., riding Metro and doing nothing but riding Metro and observing, you must have seen some questionable behavior from the riders. The riders aren't all angels out there.
That's true. No, I mean, like I said, I saw plenty of times that people were tossing the litter on the ground and not picking it up. I saw some kids that were swinging around on the poles in the middle. I don't know. They jumped in the car at one point.
Did you slam your cane against the wall and say, "Hey, you kids, stop that behavior"?
No, I kind of just kept my head down. I was like, please don't make eye contact.
Right.
Don't come up this street.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, and you finished up at the WMATA Riders Union meeting. Now, what's the status of the Riders Union meeting? And to get serious here, what are they hoping to achieve here with their movement? Because I am in full support of the riders having more of a voice in the decision-making process at WMATA, because right now there's no recourse. There's no voice for the riders.
All right, so yesterday was their first public meeting. There was several hundred people in attendance, so that was very good to see that. Apparently they have 1,500 members. It's free to join, and they're trying to become incorporated as a C3 organization, and they're well on their way to doing that. They have enough funds. They just need to go through the organization process of that. Really what they're looking to do is increase accountability and transparency in WMATA. That's not a specific goal, but there was all kinds of various different specific goals that we saw along the way at the meeting as well. So it was definitely eye-opening to get to, see it, but also it was somewhat concerning that they didn't have one, unified goal that they could all agree with that was very specific in terms of how to fix WMATA.
All right. Jason Russell.
Fascinating, yeah.
Commentary writer for Washington Examiner. Very creative idea. And one last thing. Did the conductor properly pronounce L'Enfant Plaza?
I didn't notice. That's a good question.
Oh, sometimes you get some really interesting interpretations of that apostrophe. It's actually pretty fun. But to look for that next time.
Will do. Thanks.
All right, Jason Russell.
Thanks a lot, Jason.
Washington Examiner. Follow him on Twitter, by the way, where you can catch up and you can backtrack and read his exploits. It's J. Russell MI there over at Twitter.